A sloth, a donkey, and a curious human. Send a prompt and see what they're doing. One hits record with a question on his mind. Two brothers pick it up, see what they find. Corn takes his time, Herman's got the facts. Back and forth, they never hold back. My weird prompts, come on in, that's where we begin. My weird prompts, glad you're here.
This episode was generated using artificial intelligence. Please verify facts.
My Weird Prompts is a community-driven initiative exploring how AI can fuel curiosity and uncover the fascinating ways our world works. GPU compute for this podcast is generously provided by Modal. Learn more at modal.com.
You ever find yourself at a dinner party, trapped between a high-end cheese plate and a person in thick-rimmed glasses, staring at a ceiling tile like it is a religious relic? You want to contribute to the conversation, but your internal vocabulary for buildings tops out at roof, wall, and maybe crown molding if you've been watching too much HGTV. You were nodding along as they pointed a floor plan on their phone, but inside, you were just wondering if there is any more of that truffle brie left.
It is a condition I like to call architect spouse syndrome. Architecture creates its own linguistic fortress. You are either inside, speaking the secret language of voids, volumes, and tectonic shifts, or you are outside, wondering why everyone is getting so visibly upset about the choice of cladding on a parking garage. It is a world where a window is never just a window and a door is a threshold moment.
Today's prompt from Daniel is a tactical survival guide for the spouses, partners, and innocent bystanders of the architecture world. How do you survive a studio visit, a gallery opening, or a walk through a historic district without looking like you are completely lost in the woods?
It is a guide to high-level social camouflage. I am Herman Poppleberry, and while I have spent many nights reading about cantilevered slabs and the ethics of urban density, I recognize that for most people, a building is just a place where you keep your stuff and try to stay dry.
And I am just the guy trying to figure out why we cannot just call a hallway. But Daniel is right to ask. Between the massive success of the film The Brutalist at the Golden Globes this year and the constant debates on urban density in our cities, non-architects are being forced into these highbrow conversations more than ever before. If you are dating an architect in 2026, you cannot just shrug anymore. You need a kit.
The goal today is not to turn you into a professional. That takes 7 years of school, a mountain of debt, and a wardrobe consisting entirely of black turtlenecks and structural linen. The goal is to give you 5 or 6 phrases that act as a universal key. You drop one of these, and the architect in your life will think you have finally seen the light. We are moving beyond pretty and ugly. Those words do not exist in the architectural lexicon.
So, Herman, let us set the scene. I am standing in front of a building. My partner is squinting at it. I want to say something smart, but safely vague. I do not want to commit to a technical detail. I do not understand. Where do I start?
The safest, most effective compliment you can give is to mention the massing. Just say, I really appreciate the massing here.
Massing. It sounds like something involving a lot of people, or maybe a religious service. What does it actually mean in this context?
It is the overall shape and volume of the building in 3 dimensions. Think of it as the big blocks that make up the whole before you add the windows or the materials. If you say you like the massing, you are not commenting on the color or the door handles. You are commenting on the fundamental composition. It is the ultimate safe bet because appreciation of form is subjective. It is impossible to prove you are wrong.
It is like saying a song has a good rhythm. Even if you hate the melody, the rhythm is a factual component you can appreciate. So I look at a giant concrete block and say, the massing is really considered. Does adding considered help?
Considered is the secret sauce of the industry. In architecture, nothing just happens by accident. Everything is either considered or intentional. Never say something looks nice, say it feels intentional. It implies a deep, hidden logic that you have successfully decoded, even if you are actually just thinking about what you want for lunch.
Okay, so we have massing and intentionality in the toolkit, but eventually the conversation is going to get more granular. I saw a word in your notes that sounds like a medical procedure, fenestration. Please tell me that is not as painful as it sounds.
Fenestration is just a fancy, expensive way of saying windows. Specifically, it refers to the arrangement and design of openings in a building's envelope. If you say, "I love the windows," you sound like a real estate agent trying to sell a condo. If you say, "The fenestration controls the quality of light beautifully," you sound like you have a master's degree from Yale.
Why can we not just say the windows look good? Is there a legal requirement to use the long word?
Because architecture is about the elevation of the mundane. A window is a whole, fenestration is a strategy, and architects are obsessed with light. We talked about the biological side of this back in episode 1265 regarding how natural light affects our internal clocks and circadian rhythms. Architects use that science to justify almost everything they do. If they put a window in a weird spot, it is not a mistake. It is a calibrated fenestration choice to enhance the occupant's well-being.
Right, so I say, the fenestration creates a really compelling light play on the interior surfaces.
You are a natural. You are going to be invited to so many gallery openings that you will eventually start unironically enjoying room temperature sparkling water.
God forbid. But let us talk about the elephant in the room, brutalism. Since the film The Brutalist swept the Golden Globes in January, I cannot escape people arguing about concrete. It is everywhere. My social media feed is just Adrian Brody looking intense in front of gray walls.
That film has done for architecture what Oppenheimer did for physics. It has made a very niche, very difficult aesthetic a household name again. But the architecture community is deeply divided. Many critics are furious because they say the movie gets the actual practice of architecture wrong. There is also a huge controversy regarding the film using artificial intelligence to generate the fictional back catalog of buildings for the main character.
Architects getting mad that a movie about an architect is not architecturally accurate is the most architect thing I've ever heard. It is like a chef complaining that a movie character is chopping onions with the wrong technique.
It really is. But for a spouse, this controversy is a goldmine. Brutalism is that style from the 1950s through the 70s characterized by raw, unpainted concrete and massive, often repetitive geometric forms. Most people think it looks like a prison or a Soviet bunker. Architects think it is heroic, honest, and sculptural.
So, if I am at a party and someone brings up the movie, do I have to pretend to love giant concrete blocks?
Not necessarily. You just have to use the word honesty. Architects love material honesty. If the concrete shows the marks of the wooden boards used to pour it, that is honest. If the steel beams are visible instead of hidden behind drywall, that is honest. Just nod and say, "I appreciate the honesty of the material palette." It allows you to acknowledge the building without having to say you want to live in it.
I appreciate the honesty of this concrete bunker. It sounds like a backhanded compliment, which is perfect for social navigation. Now, what about program? When my partner says the program is the problem, I assume they are having an issue with their MacBook.
That is a classic misconception. In architecture, the program has nothing to do with software or coding. The program is simply the list of what the building needs to do, the functional requirements. If you are building a house, the program is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a kitchen. When an architect says the program is challenging, they usually mean they are trying to fit too much stuff into too small a space or a weirdly shaped lot.
So, instead of saying a house has a weird, cramped layout, I should say, the program seems a bit unresolved.
Precisely. Saying the program is unresolved is a brilliant way to criticize a building without sounding mean or uneducated. It suggests the architect's creative ideas were probably fine, but the client's requirements were the problem. It shifts the blame to the person with the money, which architects love to do.
Always blame the client. That is a universal rule of consulting, I think. Now, give me the big one. The one that sounds like a party, but apparently is not. It is spelled P-A-R-T-I.
The party, pronounced par-te. It comes from the French term parti pris, meaning a fixed idea or a point of departure. The party is the core concept, the big, simple diagram that explains the whole building in one gesture. It might be a napkin sketch of 2 overlapping rectangles or a circle inside a square. That is the party.
So, it is the soul of the building? The DNA?
It is the organizing principle. If you are looking at a complex building and you have no idea what is going on, just turn to the nearest person and ask, "What is the party here?" It forces the architect to explain their big idea and shows you are looking for intellectual depth rather than just looking at the wallpaper.
What if they do not have a good answer? Or what if they start rambling for 20 minutes?
Then you look thoughtful, maybe rub your chin, and say, I wonder if the party got lost in the development of the sections. A section is just a drawing of a building sliced down the middle like a dollhouse view. Suggesting the big idea got lost in the technical drawings makes you sound like a senior partner at a major firm. It is the ultimate bluff.
These words have real power. Let us move to some real-world examples to keep our listeners current for 2026. You mentioned a building in Africa that is breaking records right now.
Yes, Tour F in Abidjan, Ivory Coast. It was designed by Pierre Fakhoury, and it is Africa's new tallest building, standing at over 1,380 feet. It is a massive achievement for the skyline of Abidjan. Referencing a project like this shows you are tracking the globalization of architecture and the starchitect phenomenon.
Starchitect. That is another one. Those are the A-list celebrities of the building world, right? The ones who get to build whatever they want.
People like Frank Gehry, whose buildings often look like crumpled metal or shimmering silk. Or the late Zaha Hadid, whose work is all about flowing, futuristic curves that seem to defy gravity. Her firm, Zaha Hadid Architects, is still incredibly active.
If I see a building that looks like a spaceship landed in the middle of a downtown district, do I just guess it is a Zaha Hadid?
It is usually a safe bet. Then you have Bjarke Ingels and his firm, BIG. He is famous for making sustainability look like a playground. He put a ski slope on top of a power plant in Copenhagen. If you want to sound like a fan, call his work hedonistic sustainability.
That sounds like an expensive spa treatment, where they wrap you in recycled seaweed.
It basically means saving the planet while having a great time. Another firm to watch this year is Snohetta. They just finished the Shanghai Grand Opera House, which is one of the most watched projects of 2026. It has this incredible roof that fans out like a deck of cards. They are masters of what we call biophilic design.
Ah, biophilic. I am guessing that is not a love of pens. Love of biology?
Close. It is the practice of connecting people to nature within the built environment. It is not just putting a potted plant in the corner, it is about natural light, organic shapes, and materials that mimic nature. If you see a building with trees growing out of the balconies or a lot of natural wood and water features, just say, the biophilic integration here is really successful.
I am writing these down. But we have to talk about the ultimate architecture conversation piece, the one that has been going on since before my grandparents were born, the Sagrada Familia.
It is the ultimate case study in patience. It has been under construction for 144 years now. It was designed by Antoni Gaudí, and interestingly, 2026 marks the 100th anniversary of his death. He was famously hit by a tram in 1926.
Is it ever actually going to be finished? I feel like they have been saying it is almost done for my entire life.
They are actually getting very close. As of right now, the main towers are nearing completion, though the decorative detailing will likely continue into the 2030s. It is a great topic for a dinner party because no two architects can agree on it. Some think it is a transcendent masterpiece, others think it is gaudy and over the top. If the conversation hits a lull, just ask, is it still a Gaudí if he has been dead for a century and we are using computers to finish it?
You are questioning the authenticity of the authorship. That sounds like a deep dive.
It is exactly the kind of philosophical rabbit hole architects love. It keeps them busy for hours while you go find the dessert table.
Let us talk about the words architects use when they actually hate something. This is the most important part of the survival guide. If my spouse or their friend says a building is interesting, what does that actually mean? Because in normal English, interesting is a good thing.
In architecture, interesting is universal code for I absolutely hate this, but I am too polite to say it to your face. If an architect calls a building interesting, they are likely looking at a total disaster. They are finding one tiny thing that is not offensive and focusing on it to avoid a confrontation.
What about bold? I hear that a lot. That is a bold choice.
Bold means it is loud, weird, and probably an eyesore. They respect the courage it took to convince a client to build something that ugly, but they definitely do not think it works. It is the architectural equivalent of saying, well, you certainly are wearing a hat.
And contextual?
Contextual is the ultimate faint praise. It means the building is boring and blends in so much that you barely notice it exists. It is the architectural version of saying someone has a great personality. It means it does not offend the neighbors, but it does not inspire anyone either.
I have been taking interesting as a compliment for years. My whole life is a lie. Now, what about the classics? Less is more. That is Mies van der Rohe, right?
Yes, the master of minimalism. He wanted to strip everything down to glass, steel, and perfect proportions. Less is more is a great phrase to use when a building feels too cluttered or messy. Just sigh and say, sometimes I think we all need to go back to Mies. It is a perfect conversation killer because it sounds so authoritative.
It is the architectural equivalent of I have to go wash my hair. But I heard there is a shift happening. Is minimalism still the king in 2026?
Actually, we are seeing a major return to ornament. For a long time, ornament was considered a crime, following a very famous essay by Adolf Loos. But lately, people are tired of glass boxes. A very sophisticated opinion to hold right now is to say, I think we have been a bit too puritanical about ornament in the last century. It shows you are aware of the history, but also looking forward to the new trends.
That sounds so highbrow. I might need a monocle to say it. And what about adaptive reuse? I hear that one at every city council meeting.
That is just the practice of taking an old building like an old factory, a warehouse, or even a church, and turning it into something new, like lofts or a tech office. The sustainability crowd loves it because, as they say, the greenest building is the one that is already built.
We did an entire episode on this. Episode 444, about property triage in historic cities. It is a massive issue in places like Jerusalem or Rome where ancient structures are a nightmare of regulations.
It brings up another great word for your toolkit, threshold. To an architect, the threshold is not just the piece of wood at the bottom of a door. It is a transition zone. It is where the public street meets the private building, or where the loud lobby meets the quiet office. If a lobby feels particularly nice, just say, the threshold moment here is really well considered.
I am going to say that next time I walk into a Taco Bell, the threshold moment between the parking lot and the burrito station is truly intentional.
You joke, but a well-designed entrance actually changes your psychological state. We talked about this in episode 638, how the physical environment shapes brain chemistry. Architects use these fancy words to describe very subtle human experiences. They are trying to articulate why a space feels good or bad.
Okay, we have a lot of material here. We have massing, fenestration, the party, biophilic design, and the secret meaning of interesting. Let us wrap this up with the 3-sentence rule you mentioned in the notes. This is for when you are cornered at a firm's holiday party and you need to escape.
This is the ultimate survival tactic. Sentence 1. Use one technical buzzword. Sentence 2. Give a vague but positive compliment. Sentence 3. Ask a question about the circulation.
Circulation. Like blood flow?
No, in architecture, circulation is how people move through the building. The hallways, the stairs, the elevators, the flow from the entrance to the back. Every architect obsesses over circulation because if it is bad, the building does not work.
Let me try to put it all together. I am at the party, holding a tiny quiche. I turn to the architect and say, I was looking at the fenestration on the north facade. The way the light interacts with the cladding is really intentional. How did you approach the circulation between the gallery and the cafe?
Corned. I would hire you as a junior designer on the spot. You identified a specific part of the building, you used a word that implies deep thought, and then you asked a question about the functional heart of the design. That architect will now talk for 20 minutes straight about hallway widths and elevator placement while you just nod and occasionally say interesting.
And remember, listeners, if I say interesting, I am actually thinking about whether there is any more of that shrimp cocktail left.
Another good one to keep in your back pocket is datum. A datum is a reference line or a plane that organizes everything else in the design, like a long continuous wall that everything else branches off of. If you see a long straight line in a building, call it a datum. It sounds much more technical than a big wall.
And cantilever? I see that on coffee tables that look like they are about to tip over and kill my cat.
A cantilever is a beam or a slab that is supported at only one end, like a diving board. Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water is the classic example. It looks like it is defying gravity. If you see a roof hanging out over nothing with no columns underneath it, just say, "That is a bold cantilever." It shows you understand structural tension.
A bold cantilever. I feel ready. I feel like I could walk into any studio in Brooklyn or Berlin and hold my own for at least 10 minutes. But what is the final exit strategy? How do I leave the conversation without being rude?
Use the Mies van der Rohe move. Look at your watch, give a small, knowing sigh, and say, "This has been fascinating, but I think I need to go simplify my own environment for a while." As Mies said, less is more. Then just walk away into the night.
It is the architectural equivalent of, "I have to go return some American Psycho tapes." Herman, this has been genuinely enlightening. I feel like I understand the architect's brain a little better now. It is not just about being pretentious. It is a struggle to impose order on a very messy world.
It really is a beautiful profession, even if the jargon is thick enough to require a chainsaw. At the end of the day, architects are just trying to create spaces that make the human experience a little bit better, whether they call it biophilic integration or just a nice garden with a view.
For all the spouses, partners, and friends out there, I hope this helps you navigate your next social event. Remember, the massing is considered, the fenestration is compelling, and when in doubt, always ask about the party.
And if you see a giant glass box, make sure to complain about the lack of ornament. It is very 2026.
Wait, I think I just used the word ornament correctly in a sentence. Does this mean I have to start wearing black turtlenecks now?
It is a slippery slope, corn. Next thing you know, you will be arguing about the specific shade of gray for your kitchen cabinets. You are a work in progress, just like the Sagrada Familia.
I will take it. If you want to dive deeper into the world of design and the weird prompts that shape our built environment, check out our full archive at myweirdprompts.com. We have over 1,200 episodes covering everything from the biology of light to the nightmare of real estate money pits.
And if you enjoy the show, leaving a review on your podcast app of choice really helps us reach more people who are currently struggling to understand why their partner is crying over a specific texture of concrete.
Thanks to our producer, Hilbert Flumingtop, for keeping the circulation of this show moving smoothly and ensuring our threshold moments are always well considered.
And a big thanks to Modal for the GPU credits that power these deep dives into the architectural lexicon.
This has been my Weird Prompts. I am Corn.
And I am Herman Poppleberry.
We will see you in the next threshold.
I see what you did there. Good luck at the party, Corn. Don't forget to mention the cladding.
This episode was generated using Gemini Flash 3. Text-to-speech engine was Chatterbox.
Thanks for listening to our show, My Weird Prompts, where our thoughts go from slow takes to facts on cue. We change and follow through. My weird prompts.